Good morning. It's Tuesday morning, and today we read Matthew 14:13 through 21, which is when Jesus feeds the 5,000. When he heard this, that John the Baptist was dead, he withdrew from there in a boat to a desolate place by himself. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. And when he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. And when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place, and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We only have 5 loaves here and 2 fish." And Jesus said, "Bring them here to me." Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied, and they took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Well, the first thing to say is that 5,000 men plus the women and children, that's a huge crowd. That's, like half the population of Jerusalem. It's a huge group of people that's out there following him and wanting him to teach them. So we have that. But Jesus challenges the disciples to feed this crowd. And the disciples say, "Well, okay, but we've got 5 little loaves of bread and a couple of sardines. So what are we supposed to do, Jesus?" And he says, "Give me the food," blesses it, and they start passing it out. And as they pass it out, it just keeps multiplying. There's no real way to explain that. Some people have said, well, yeah, all the people had food tucked in their pockets, in their robes and things, and they didn't want to start eating it in front of the other folks, and so they kind of kept it hidden. But as they saw the food being passed, they pulled out their food and passed it along, and so it was a miracle of generosity. It persuaded people to be more generous, and that's a good thing. But I don't buy that. I don't think the gospel writers intended to say that. I think they would have said so if that is what happened. I think that Jesus somehow miraculously fed all of these people with a little bit of bread. There's a hint here in Matthew of the church's early Eucharistic practices, bringing the bread to the church and then sharing it and passing it. But that's only kind of a hint, and the 12 baskets left over, there's all these hints, but what we really have to look at is, what does Jesus do? And he blesses his food, and he starts passing it, and everybody passes it and tears off as much as they need, and pretty soon everybody's been fed, and there's a bunch of it left over. It's simply a miracle. What do we learn from that? Well, not to worry so much about what we're going to eat. Jesus says, "I'll give you your daily bread. You're going to be fed. Don't worry about it." He also says, not to worry about these sorts of things, but to take care of yourself and take care of your spirit, and your body will catch up. We'll get those things done. Don't worry about that. If we could stop worrying, life would be so much easier and simpler, wouldn't it? I want to say that's the message for today, but I think this story goes deeper. But think about this story and what it means for Jesus to just miraculously feed this crowd like it's nothing. Jesus can do a great deal for us, more than we expect, like it's nothing. We have to be willing to let him, willing to cooperate, and also maybe to expect him to do great things. He might not always do them, but then again, he might. So that's good for today, and tomorrow we'll see you. Have a great day.